Hey everybody, I'm Sam Haymart and you're watching Test Driven TV. Today we are finally test driving the all-new Volkswagen ID.Buzz EV minivan. And I gotta tell you, I've been pretty excited to test drive this. This is a vehicle that, as a longtime Volkswagen enthusiast and an owner of countless Volkswagens, I have to admit I've been lusting after for quite some time. I've been not only wanting to drive one, but part of me just really wanted to love this thing and really wanted to have one. That said, we're going to find out here as we talk about this in our little review here that sometimes lust and love isn't all it's cracked up to be, which means that you're going to find out that I'm not necessarily a blind loyalist when it comes to the Volkswagen brand. So that said, what do we have here? This is a full-length 3-row minivan. It is huge. This thing takes up the same amount of space as a Chevrolet Tahoe, just about. It weighs more than one. This is 6,200 pounds of electric minivan. You know what else weighs 6,200 pounds? Like a full-size Super Duty Ford pickup truck. I mean, this is a big, heavy brick of a vehicle, but it is very handsome. Look at that face. That's something not only a mother could love, but a daddy could love too. I mean, it's just handsome. It's retro. It definitely makes you think of the old Microbus from the 60s and 70s, but it's got a much more modern take. It's got wheels that definitely speak to a retro feel, don't they? I mean, they're 20-inch wheels, much bigger than anything that a vintage Volkswagen had. Now, when you look at the overall silhouette of this thing, it's got a cab-forward design, not quite like the old 60s Microbus, but they weren't safe at all. This at least has some crash structure out in front of the driver. As we come back, this does have power sliding doors on both sides. Interesting detail in these doors is that little tiny porthole window. That thing pops and slides, flush mounted when it's closed. I think it's a cool detail. When I first saw those, I'm like, how do those work? Are they like flip open or what? But no, they slide. At the rear, of course, being a modern contemporary minivan, this does have a power opening rear hatch. All right, everyone, are you with me? Let's go for a drive. Now we're in the parking garage, so it's going to take us a second to get out of here, which is great because it gives me a quiet moment to have a conversation with you about what powers this thing. Being an EV, this has the standard layout, which has become very common with modern EVs, and that is that it has a giant battery under the floor, about the size of a queen-size mattress. In this case, it's 91 kilowatt hours. It's a big battery. This has all-wheel drive, the 4Motion option, which means it has a motor in the front, motor in the back. Altogether, we have 335 horsepower, 512 pound-feet of torque, and a total range of 235 miles according to the EPA. So the fact that we have an EV has a lot of benefits. I love electric vehicles. I'm one of those people. I've come to appreciate them and understand what they offer. And one of the great things they offer is the fact that they are quiet as can be. And they have nice, smooth power. It's very fluid and very torquey. In the case of this one, extremely torquey. And even though this is a heavy vehicle, you can really feel that when you lay into the power pedal. And that's what we call that these days in electric vehicles. It's called a power pedal, not a gas pedal. So driving down the road, because this is so heavy, this has a very stiff suspension. So the ride is very stiff and firm, and you really notice that when you go over bumps, dips, and undulations, because there's not a lot of forgiveness in the suspension, because it can't. It's holding up the weight of this vehicle. And with these 20-inch wheels and the low-profile tires, while you get the nice road feel and the enthusiast driving sort of texture that people who like Volkswagens appreciate, if you want a big minivan for a comfortable family ride, well, it kind of drives and rides like a truck. That's just the fact. And yes, it's a minivan, which means there are minivan rattles throughout. The seats and all of the structures in here rattle just a little bit, which I would, if I owned this thing, I would be out looking for rattles and trying to kill them. I'm that personality. But that said, with the different driving modes that this has, it enables you to set it for the maximum range down on the eco mode, or you can set it for maximum power and a little bit more of a free-flowing handling feel. On eco, it feels like it's chained to a house because the throttle response, the power pedal response is dialed back and a lot of the ancillary things like the electronics, they tend to be less of a priority, the air conditioning. But surprisingly, on eco mode, the air conditioning on this still works well enough, and it's 100 degrees a few days this week here in Phoenix, and the air conditioner does work pretty well. There's rear air, and so it's managed to keep this cabin pretty comfortable, but it does hit the range pretty good. And we have to talk about range, because 235 miles range isn't the smallest range, but for something this large and expensive, you might have thought it had closer to a 300-mile range, but it does not. And the minute you turn the AC on, the range predictor on the dash drops substantially. You really see almost immediately what using that air conditioner does to how many miles you have. So that 235-mile range isn't for you if you're using the air conditioner, or if you're driving at night a lot with the lights and all of that. Anything that you use in the way of electric power takes away from your range. Always good to remember with an EV. Now, driving through my neighborhood here, again, very quiet. Now the speed hump test, as we get here, I like to do this. It's definitely very stiff, bounce, but you don't feel any creaking or clunking in the suspension. It doesn't feel cheap, and that's good, because it's not. Now the interior on this, we're not going to do a sit and full tour of the interior, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about it while the camera's floating through and getting some nice shots. This is a beautiful interior. I like the mid-century design. It's a little bit retro, but definitely modern. In this case, the color combinations, I like the wood tone of the white and the copper upholstery. The quality is pretty good, and the feature content in the way of technology on the dash, all of the tablet and the electronics, very good. The Harman Kardon audio, exceptional, and all the little creature comforts are exactly what you would expect here. This has massaging seats, for crying out loud. That helps offset the shock of that price tag just a little bit. But as you move around, you'll notice this has a 6-passenger seating capacity in this model. If you get the rear-wheel drive, it has a 7-passenger seating capacity. So you lose 1 passenger if you go for the all-wheel drive. And there's a few benefits to, I think, going with the rear-wheel drive model. You get a little bit more range. The horsepower drop isn't that dramatic, but you get a 250-pound weight savings. So there's a few reasons why maybe to consider that 2-wheel drive when all-wheel drive is the rage and the popularity. But it's a very well done interior, and there's just a lot of feature versatility. So one question I always like to ask is, how does it go? Woo! Immediate power. Off we go. Woo! And I'm speeding really quick. So even though this thing weighs a lot, it's got some punch. And that's good, because you want something for your money. And so it really does pick up quite nicely. And even though it does weigh a lot, that power does overcome the weight pretty good. So even though this thing does weigh a lot, and I know I've talked about the weight over and over and over again to almost ad nauseum, because you can't escape it. It's there every time you turn a corner. It's there every time you go over a speed bump. It's there every time you hit the brakes. It's there every time you hit the power pedal. It's just there. But there are a few times when it belies its weight, and that's when you mash the pedal hard. Now there is one exception to that rule, and that's when you mash the brakes hard. This has front disc brakes, but rear drum brakes. Weird. And we talked about that with Volkswagen's other electric car. Why they've gone backwards in technology to the 18th century, 19th century, and put drum brakes on a modern vehicle of any kind is beyond me. Well, I know the answer. It's called cost savings. But especially when a vehicle weighs this much, why would you put inferior brakes on the vehicle? That just doesn't make any sense. And you notice it when you really lay into the brakes. If you're trying to stop quickly, the stopping power that this thing has is not that great. I would call it weak, to be honest with you. So I just really think they could have done a little bit better there. You really notice it. Notice this little quality issue here. There's a spot down on the driver's side footwell where the carpet doesn't cover the floor altogether. There's a little bit of a hole there. A cool little Easter egg are these dividers in the center console. This one has a built-in bottle opener. The one here in the back actually is an ice scraper, so you can use it to scrape ice off your windshield. That is totally cool. Ever present this week has been the warning light on the instrument cluster here. That's the equivalent of a check engine light for an EV. And it comes on with a warning that says that there's an electrical fault in the vehicle system that needs to be inspected. Comes on, goes off intermittently. Almost all EVs have a innovative way of showing you their charging status. This has a really cool LED bar that goes all the way across the base of the windshield. And as you can see here, it's indicating it's about 75% charged, and there's just a little bit left over here. And I love this. It's big and bright. You can totally just pop your head out into the garage and see how it's going. So what do I think? Where do I really come down on this? Well, as I said at the outset, I'm a longtime Volkswagen enthusiast and owner, but that doesn't mean that my eyes are wide shut. I can see reality, and the reality is this: as much as I really wanted to love this vehicle, and there was a time I thought I would really like to have one. I lusted after it for a while. I thought that would be the perfect EV for me because it's cute AF. It's something I can take camping. I can go on road trips with. I can do this. I can do that. Blah, 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 blah. The reality is none of that fits. And that's because this has, a 200-mile range, give or take, maybe just a little bit more. But if you load it full of people and stuff, it's under 200 miles. So you really can't go road tripping or camping with it very much unless it's right over there to those mountains I can see from the top of this parking garage. And it's heavy and it's big, and it's really like living with this big giant elephant. It's cute, but it's a cute elephant. It's handsome. I love the styling, even in the solid color. It's got great versatility. The quality is reasonably good, but it's got Volkswagen quirkiness, as we talked about out on the drive. It's got lights on the dash that come on, even brand new. And I've owned a lot of Volkswagens. You learn to get used to that if you own them. But at $70,000, it starts to get old, let's be honest. And when I think about $70,000 and what else you can get for this money in this kind of realm, there's the Kia EV9 out there. And granted, it's not a tall minivan, but it has every bit as much of the seating capacity, the cargo capacity, just about the usefulness. It's more of an SUV, but it's got better range, I think, as far as how it uses electricity. It's priced a little bit more attractively, and it's designed forward. I think if you're comparing a Kia EV9 to this in terms of what you get for the money and what it's like to live with, the Kia definitely is the winner, hands down. I really want to love this, but I can't. I'm sorry. I'm a bad Volkswagen enthusiast. I can see the truth once in a while. So I think that if this thing had been scaled down maybe 10 or 15%, it would have been just right. But here we have a vehicle it's like a Chevy full-size van from the 70s in terms of its size and largesse, and that's not what I'm after in life. And I don't know if anyone is these days. So anyway, there you have it for our brief walk around and test drive of the Volkswagen ID.Buzz. You can see our latest video right there. Better yet, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel right down there. Either way, stay tuned.